Howdy, y'all. Duke Dallas here, coming at you from the heart of Texas, where the stars are bright and the conversations are brighter. Welcome to Unfettered Ideas, where we don't just wave the flag, we dig into what it stands for. Today's topic: the federal government's new policy defining sex as strictly male and female. Now this one's a powder keg: biological truth, women's rights, and what some call an attack on freedom. Let's unpack it Texas style. Let's start with the facts. On January 20th, President Trump signed an executive order titled Defending Women from Gender Ideology Extremism. Now, this order says the feds will only recognize two sexes, male and female, based on biology at birth. No more X-gender markers on passports, no more trans women in women's prisons, and schools can't use gender-neutral terms in federal docs. Some see it as a return to traditional values. Others warn it could marginalize those who don't fit a binary mold. Today we're going to lay it all out: the facts, the history, and what it means for the future of our nation. So sit back, keep an open mind, and let's get started. Now, I know this is a sensitive topic and there's plenty of heated debate out there. Some say this is simply a matter of biological fact, just like how we all have an X or a Y chromosome. Others argue that gender is more complex than that, woven into our identities and personal experiences. But let me tell you, there's something to be said about tradition and clarity in our laws and policies. Back in my day, things were simpler. We had clear definitions for roles and responsibilities, and even if times change, there's a certain stability that comes from knowing exactly who you are and what you stand for. And that's what today's policy is aiming for: a return to clear, unequivocal definitions. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not here to shut down conversation or ignore the experiences of those who see themselves differently. But when the federal government sets a policy that affects everything from education to health care, it's worth asking, are we making America stronger, or are we risking division? Let's take a quick history lesson. The United States was founded on principles of liberty, individualism, and yes, tradition. Our founding documents were clear about the rights and responsibilities of citizens. Now times have changed, and so have our social norms. But there's a reason why many of us, especially those of us raised on a strong sense of American heritage, value clear-cut definitions. When I served my country, I saw firsthand what unity looks like on the battlefield. We stood together as Americans, proud, resolute, and clear about our identity. That same clarity is what many believe should carry over into our social policies. They argue that by reinforcing a strict two-gender policy, the government is simply aligning with the unchanging biological realities that have guided society for generations. Now, I'm not saying that life isn't complicated. It sure as heck can be. And I'm aware that some folks feel that this policy doesn't represent their lived experience. But here's where the debate gets interesting. How do we honor the values that built this country while also addressing modern challenges? It's a conversation that's as old as the Republic itself. For many patriots, traditional definitions are seen as a bedrock of societal stability, a sort of cultural anchor. You might say that some of us worry that too much change, too quickly, could erode the very fabric of what makes America unique. And while I'm a man who believes in compassion and fairness, I also believe in the importance of shared values that have served us well for centuries. Now let's be clear. I'm a patriot. And I stand by the idea that America works best when we respect local traditions and the wisdom of our forefathers. We don't need a federal decree telling us how to define something as fundamental as sex. There's a certain irony here. Many of the critics hail from urban centers and academic circles, places where political correctness often overrides straightforward facts. And while I respect academic debate, sometimes it feels like facts are being twisted to fit an agenda. I remember a time when a man's word was his bond, and sometimes I think we've lost sight of that in our rush to redefine everything. Now, I want to be crystal clear. I'm all for open dialogue and the free exchange of ideas, but I worry that in our eagerness to be inclusive, we may be sacrificing clarity and tradition. And let me tell you, that isn't just a matter of opinion, it's a matter of national identity. When policies like this are pushed through without the kind of grassroots support that reflects the will of the people, it can feel like our voices are being drowned out by the well-funded elite. I know some of you might say, but Duke, isn't it our duty to protect the rights of all citizens, even if they don't fit the traditional mold? And I agree, protecting individual rights is paramount. Yet there's a balance to be struck. In our quest for progress, we must not discard the principles that have made this country great. I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm here to share my perspective as someone who's seen the highs and lows of this great nation. I believe in America, in its strength, its traditions, and its endless capacity for renewal. And part of that renewal means holding ourselves accountable to the values that have carried us through wars, recessions, and social upheavals. Now, I'll be honest. I come from a place where we don't shy away from speaking our minds. Some might label that as being a bit too blunt, even borderline politically incorrect. But let's be real. Sometimes honesty stings a little. And if we're going to talk about something as fundamental as our identity as a nation, we need to be upfront about our fears and our hopes. I encourage you to think about this. What does it mean to be American? Is it the freedom to choose, the ability to challenge the status quo, or the adherence to traditions that have served us well for generations? Perhaps it's all of these things. And sometimes that means having a conversation that isn't afraid to touch on controversial points. After all, our ideas, unfettered and unafraid, are what will shape the future of this country. So whether you agree with the strict binary view of sex, or you think there's room for a broader understanding, remember that our strength as a nation lies in our ability to debate, disagree, and ultimately come together in the spirit of freedom. Do me a solid. Don't forget to subscribe, smash that like button, and drop a comment. This ain't just my show, it's yours. The people's voices matter, and we're building an army of patriots here. The elites want us silent. We say hell no. And if you want to fuel this fight, head over to our Patreon. Links in the description. Every dollar keeps us uncanceled and unfiltered. We're taking this country back, one patriot at a time. Stay strong, stay loud, and stay tuned. This is Duke Dallas, signing off. God bless y'all, and God bless America.